Hi, I'm Clayton Mask, and on the Conquer the Chaos podcast, I talk with inspiring business owners about what it takes to build a great business and a great life. That means more money, more time, more control, more impact, more freedom. So keep listening to hear the tough lessons they learned so you don't have to repeat them. Welcome, everyone, to this episode of the Conquer the Chaos podcast. I am Clayton Mask, your host of the Conquer the Chaos podcast, co-founder and CEO of Keep. And I'm really excited today to have an amazing conversation with an entrepreneur I think you can learn a lot from. Chris Lee is joining us today. Chris, thanks so much for being with us. I appreciate it.
Excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Hey, Chris, why don't you take a second and share? You've done some amazing things. You've built a company, 1,100 people, incredible in the niche of solar, and sold to private equity. You've had all kinds of wins that through your career, and now you're doing some things to teach entrepreneurs some of the things that maybe slip through the cracks or don't get executed very effectively. So I know there's a lot of value you're going to give, but maybe take just a second and help our listeners understand your journey as an entrepreneur and what you're doing now.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously it sounds like a nice fairy tale to say I built an 1,100 person business and sold it for 9 figures off to private equity. You know, that sounds great and grand, but there was many years prior to that led up. I've had essentially a 20-year entrepreneurial career, and for the first, 12, 13, 14 years, it was nothing but a struggle and a grind, and, moving. Me and my wife, we have 5 children, and over my career, we've moved 14 different times.
Wow.
And so we've chased it, we've hustled, I've knocked doors, sold things online, flipped cars, houses. Built my first business, built it too fast, too quickly. The economy and a bunch of poor decisions led to a bankruptcy of $2.2 million, losing everything, having less than $1,000 in my bank account, car repoed out of my driveway. I've owned a search engine optimization business, cows, flipped cars, vehicles, things on Facebook and Amazon and eBay and pretty much anything to make a buck. And, but most of it served as some level of an education. So,
yeah.
There was one point in my career where, I decided I wasn't figuring it out on my own, even though I was doing all these different things. There was more for me to learn from the corporate world. And so I went back, to work for somebody else in 2012. And for 4.5 years, I worked for 3 different businesses purely with the intentionality of studying how they were scaling and building their businesses. And so I call it my paid education because I was making good money. I made $300,000 to $500,000 a year, and I was just taking notes of why the CEOs and executives were operating the way that they were.
That is an amazing education. And for all of our listeners, I mean, there's something you heard in there in all of the experience that Chris has that we're going to draw on and have a great conversation about this. But so let me just see if I can summarize what I heard you say. You built up a business, built a huge team, 1,100 people, sold to private equity for 9 figures. And while that happened in a relatively short period of time, maybe 5 or 6 years, it sounds like what I heard, the first 14 years was really all of the education and foundational work you did. That was, some of it was school of hard knocks, some of it was as an employee studying what others were doing, but probably a lot of quote unquote failures and a lot of lessons learned. I hear bankruptcy, I hear all kinds of different things that you were doing, and amidst all of that, you were gaining an education that became the foundation that you used to build a business that you ultimately sold for 9 figures. Is that a fair synopsis of what you just said?
That's a fair synopsis. And the only thing I would add to that is in 2015, a couple of years before I started my business, I made a commitment to myself that I would really invest in my personal education. And I from that point on, every quarter, every 3 months, I went to a mastermind, a course, an event.
Yes.
Was a
Yep.
part of a coaching something, and between 2015 and now, I've spent over $1 million on these type of things.
Yep.
I most recently, I'm a part of a Harvard program that I graduate this fall from. It's the highest level executive program that they have. It's called Owners Presidents Management, and
Yep.
168 people that are in my group. About 50 of them are billionaires, and it's so just the commitment that I made at that time to go and spend the money, even when I didn't have it, to and really understand that it's not the money that makes me successful. It's the experience, it's the knowledge. And so I've just become a weapon that can go and execute over and over again.
Chris, I love it. I think, by the way, I think that principle of investing in yourself is one of the things about business success that sometimes kind of it sometimes gets put on the back burner because people think, oh, I'm so busy doing the business, that they miss the point that it's that growth and development that is what opens up the capacity for the business to really take off. And as I've certainly seen this, you've just articulated it, that as you become more successful, you lean in and you invest more and more and more in your growth and development. And I'll, for people that would like, to take this principle from the world of sports, I remember a couple of years ago, I'm a big NBA fan, and a couple of years ago, Chris Paul was on the Phoenix Suns, and the Phoenix Suns are my team. I love the Suns, and Chris Paul's good friends with LeBron James, and they were talking about how much they invest in their performance, and the amount of money that they spend on nutritionists, therapists, chefs, the sports psychology, all kinds of different personal services around them so that their home and their personal life is functioning effectively. People might think, oh gosh, these guys make so much money. They literally spend millions of dollars to make sure that they perform effectively as an athlete. And right. So what you've just articulated with the Harvard OPM program that I'm certainly familiar with, and with so many of the other coaching and development programs out there, sometimes entrepreneurs either don't invest to get to that next level, or they get to that level and they stop investing. I know personally myself, at times I've been like, whoa, my investment's down a little bit right now. I need to be investing more. And sometimes it's the dollars that make you do the things that you need to do. So you got to put you got to put that skin in the game. So I appreciate you drawing out that principle. And before I dig in a little deeper on some of the things, I want to just acknowledge the amazing family that you have, for your wife and 5 kids to go through the journey you've been through. And I just, for me, and what I talk about in Conquer the Chaos, I talk about the 6 keys to success, but the definition of success, as I say it, is balanced growth in your business and personal life. And you and I have both seen way too many incidents of entrepreneurs that are quote unquote successful, but right. That's in terms of how you would measure it in dollars or at work and the business. And yet the personal life is just a mess. And so I just want to acknowledge you and your family for going through all of those crazy things over 14 years, being able to get to a place where you're able to build that business and have an incredible financial outcome that I know has enabled you to do some really fun, amazing things, including the property that you have your family on right now. I read about that. That's fantastic. And just want to acknowledge you and your family for that, because sometimes the family gets forgotten about in the process, either by the entrepreneur or certainly by the people who are studying the success of the entrepreneur. And you and I both know it doesn't happen without them. Absolutely. Yeah. My wife has definitely been, the bedrock of everything. So yeah, appreciate it. Awesome. You bet, Chris. Okay. So you have such an amazing perspective on leadership and having built a business to 1,100 people. Now, I would love to spend some time on leadership and the intentionality that's required to create an amazing business. And by the way, for anybody out there that's like, oh, I'm not going to build a business of 1,100. The principles of leading people, the sixth key to success, I culminate with leadership, because it really is where all of those other pieces come together, and you start to create an amazing impact in your business when you're intentional about leadership. You and I, before we jumped onto the episode, talked about some of the things that you've done, some of the things that we've done, and I've been involved with elite entrepreneurs. And so I really want to dig in this episode on the key to success of leadership, and get practical and tactical about how you do that very intentionally. So maybe give us just a brief overview of some of the things that you did to get a business built up to 1,100 people in a way that didn't, break you in the process.
Yeah, for sure. So, I think one of the most important things when you have a goal that you're going out after is creating clarity. Clarity is, in society, we are so unclear about everything. Like, how much money do you want to make? Oh, $100,000. Like, why? Why is it this round $100,000 number? Or what do you want to do? Oh, I want to do fun stuff or good stuff or great stuff. It's like there's no clarity behind any of it. Most of us are chasing somebody else's dream. Most of us are chasing something that society fed to us regarding, once you have $1 million in your bank account, you'll be successful, or once you have accomplished X, you'll be successful, or this is what you need, or this is what you want. You want the sports car, you want this, that, or the other. Like, when 9 times out of 10, the things that we say that we want, we don't even really want. And so, I think one of the biggest things when becoming a leader and developing leaders is helping identify clear goals of why am I in business? And so, from the get-go, I've always known that I want to be rich, and it's not to just be rich for rich sake, but that I have a very intentional heart. And I love blessing other people, and I have big, hairy, audacious goals when it comes to running a charity that gives back and builds underprivileged communities and develops entrepreneurs from people that don't have the financial means necessary in order to do so. I have a very clear goal that the way that we change the world is through developing people as entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs have the greatest impact in the world, right?
Yes.
And the reason is everybody has to have money. And so if they initially come into your organizations thinking that they're going to get a paycheck, and they leave better contributors to society, better fathers, better brothers, better mothers, sisters, better servants, better people that make sacrifice to build their communities. They're more spiritually fed. They're more, all these things. And if we as entrepreneurs can understand that that is what people really want, we can change the world. And so for me, I love changing the world. And I'm very passionate about it. I get emotional when I think about it. Some of my greatest experiences are the text messages I get from an employee that hasn't worked with us in a year, and he sends me a text and he says he's lost 120 pounds, and all because of something that I taught him. Or somebody that says hey, we worked through our marriage issues and now we're good. And or I've had multiple employees call me at the point of wanting to commit suicide, and they knew that I would answer.
It's amazing.
And so when I think about what I want, and I think when we're talking leadership, you gotta understand, like, what is it that drives you, and what is it that is your gift to the world?
Yeah.
Because each of us are completely different. But when you get clear, then you can start building a vision. And really, vision is what leaders get behind. Whoever has the greatest vision will envelop and build the greatest team. And
okay, that's a great point that I want to make sure people get. Whoever has the biggest vision will envelop and create the greatest team. And that's a fantastic point. We know that, where there is no vision, the people perish.
Yeah.
We know that vision is necessary to inspire people and get that best, get people in a place where they want to give their best, they want to create. But you articulate it in a way. A lot of times I talk about this with entrepreneurs when they're raising capital. I say you've got to have the vision and the story, but I've never articulated it quite the way you just did, and I love that. When you've got the biggest vision, will envelop and enable the creation of something really, really big. Okay, we're going to keep this going, but first a quick message for you. Conquer the Chaos listeners, let me talk to you straight for just a minute. You're running your business and it dominates your mind. It can be very difficult to take a step back and see what's needed to create balance in your business and your personal life, and to create great growth and development and progress in your business and personal life. One of the most powerful ways to gain the perspective that you need is to get away from things and immerse yourself in an environment where you're going to be inspired, where you can see possibilities, where you can create connections, and where you can learn and grow and develop. And I know of no better place for entrepreneurs than Keep's Let's Grow Summit. For years, we ran this conference as just an amazing mecca for entrepreneurship. And then, truth be told, for a few years, we didn't run it. We got back to it last year, and this year we're putting it on, and it is going to be awesome. I am so excited about this, and I want you as our listeners to not miss out on this event. It's going to be November 20th through the 22nd, downtown Phoenix, with the main days being the 21st and the 22nd. You can register for it by going to keep.com/letsgrowsummit. That's keep.com/letsgrowsummit. And you can take advantage of our early bird registration pricing, which expires the end of July. So if you are needing a reflection time, an opportunity to take a step back, gain greater perspective, inspiration, and most of all, see what automation, the fifth key to success, can do for your business, then make sure that you attend the Let's Grow Summit. Keep.com/Let's Grow Summit, November 20th through 22nd in Phoenix. I look forward to seeing you there. All right, now back to our chat.
I mean, when I say that, I think of like Elon Musk. Like, I'm a pretty freaking awesome visionary, and I have a big vision, right? Like, because of what I want to do for the world, I have been able to back in and like create detailed outlines of how I'm going to go and create it. But a guy like Elon Musk, he's got a greater vision than me, man. The guy wants to, he wants to inhabit Mars, and he wants to repower the grid differently. And he changed the way that we produce vehicles, and he wants to land rockets back on the earth, and you just like, I mean, this guy thinks big. And from the standpoint, like, if Elon were to call me today, even though I have a really big vision for what I'm doing, and he said, Chris, I want you to go and run this division for me, chances are I'm going to close shop and go and work with Elon, because he's got a greater vision than me. And so when you're building leaders, like I said, you have to have the biggest and most clearest vision. And so the way you get clear is, one, you got to understand what you want. Two, you got to identify the exact roadmap that's going to get you there. And so, this starts with a vision and a mission statement. A mission is what you're about. A vision is what you're going to accomplish. The core values are the things that you want to support getting you there, right? The people that represent these set of values that are accomplished. And then you have to build it backwards of, like, for example, when I launched a business out of my garage, I'm sitting in a 400 square foot cement floor, drywall, probably has cat piss everywhere. It has like a window AC unit in my shop, right? And I'm sitting with like 2 people, and I'm like creating this. I'm like, okay, 5 years from now, we are going to be doing, in order to accomplish the goals that I have to change the world, I need to be doing $100 million a year. And in order to do $100 million a year, this is what I have to back in. And so then I started backing it in of like, okay, what is the average sales rep sell in our industry? So it's going to take 70 sales reps. We'll use the law of management. That means I'm going to need 10 managers, 2 divisionals, and 1 director. Okay, so that's my 5-year roadmap. Now operations, what is it going to look like? And doing the work of creating clear vision and direction of a roadmap with an org chart, roles, goals, responsibilities, how we're going, and then the overall customer experience that we're going to create, like all this work. And it's not just like as brief as I'm talking about, it's like going through and identifying and writing it out and going. And so, when I sat there in that garage, I had a roadmap that was going to get us 500 employees and $100 million a year. Right. And that was the roadmap that I went and I would preach. And I would, when I would sit down and I would recruit people, I'd be like, look, in 5 years, we're going to be one of the nation's largest solar providers. We're going to be the gold standard of what we're, of the solar industry. So that's our vision statement. Our mission statement was, hey, we're going to build a brighter future for our people. We're going to help them become better physically, economically, with their associations and their spirituality. We're going to have our core values of oh my goodness, synergy, outside the box, love of family, generosity, excellence, and no excuses. This is how we're going to go accomplish it. Yes, you're coming in, and I know we're sitting in a sweaty garage right now, and there's no AC, and you're coming in at the ground floor, but 6 months from now, this is what it's going to look like, and we're going to need management here, we're going to need this, that, and the other. And like just painting the vision and being so clear on that's what the direction we were going, people started to believe and come in and be developed based off of this crazy idea of what we could go and accomplish. Right? And here's the crazy thing. Fast forward 5 years, I had a roadmap to get us to 100 million. We actually went beyond, and everybody thought I was crazy. Like,
of course,
nobody.
They all think it's crazy until you do it,
right?
And then they say, "I knew you could do it all along."
Yeah. And here's the thing. Here's the thing about a leader, right? A leader is an evangelist. And what you're trying to do as an evangelist is not get others to believe in your vision. You're trying to get others to believe that you believe in your vision, right? And so they're sitting to themselves like, dude, this guy is crazy. There's no way in heck that we're getting this thing to 100 million, whatever. But he looks pretty sold on this. like he is so clear. He knows the exact steps that he's going to get there. He believes it. I might as well give it a shot and just see if I can tag along for a ride.
That's a great way to say it. When you're building belief, what you're really doing is building belief in them that you believe in the vision. And then what I've experienced is they start to believe it. And as my coach has always said, when enough people believe it's going to happen, it can't not happen.
Yeah, exactly. And the crazy thing is, like I said, my initial plan was to do that. We built more. By the end of 5 years, we did our last year, as I sold to private equity, we did $233 million in revenue.
Amazing.
And we had 1,100 employees. And if you'll notice, the revenue to employee was almost the exact one that we had created with the roadmap. And like that is because of the work that had been done. And so like along the way, like that vision is the number one thing to developing out leadership, right? Like if you lack that, nothing else matters. There's so many other important principles like trust and transparency and having hard conversations and everything else that supports
but it starts
that.
with vision.
But number one, has to be the vision.
Well, and you called it out. The key word is clarity. And I appreciated the way that you took us through all of the different aspects of it. You know, there's the mission, and there's the goals, and there's the roles and responsibilities, and the people, and creating the picture and helping people understand that. You know, we literally wrote out the picture. We called it our Everest mission as we were going through that stage, and we were helping everybody see it and understanding what it looked like as we're climbing that mountain together. So I have great appreciation for that. Now let me pull it back to the listener that's got 2 employees right now that maybe doesn't want to create a 500-person company. You know, there's a lot of by the way, I agree with you 100% on the impact of entrepreneurs. You and I have a very similar ethos and just the desire. You know, my life purpose is to love, inspire, and enrich others, and I hear that come out in you very clearly. There's a lot of entrepreneurs who, at least where they sit right now, they don't want to go build something big. By the way, as you and I both know, sometimes you get to the next mountain peak and then you see the next one. You're like, oh, now I can see that. I want to do the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. But let's just for a second, because most entrepreneurs are in a place where, listen, if I could get to a place where I could get go from the 2 or 3 or 4 of us to a team of 10 or 15 or 20, where we're achieving the revenue goal, the take-home pay, the number of employees, the customer satisfaction and experience, that's great success. So how do you take a second and maybe dial it back to the principles that are required for that small business entrepreneur to build a successful business from the 2 or 3 that they're at right now to the 10 or 20 people that they want to be to in 3 years, let's say?
So first of all, when you talk about somebody that has 2 people and they're just like, I don't want that. First of all, you got to ask yourself, is that really what you don't want, or have you just given up on your dreams? Right? Like, is this fear or self-sabotage that's keeping you from not wanting to go and accomplish your potential? Or is it really you just don't want that, right? Like if you can look me in the eye and say, this is what I want to accomplish over the 5 years, it's only a 10 or 15 man team, and this is the exact reason why I want to accomplish that, and you have like done the work and built it out and said exactly, then I'll believe you, right? But if you're just like, I don't want that, and you give me some crappy excuse.
It's usually they don't want the problems that they assume go along with it.
Right. Or just the fear of whatever society has told them, like money is bad, and like you're going to lose your family if you do this, or right. There's a lot of fear, beliefs. Right? Because we've seen these things, as you referenced earlier, right? Like guys that go on this journey and just destroy their family, destroy their morals, destroy everything else. Right. The only reason why that ever happens is because those guys were only clear on one thing: they wanted money. They didn't know what they wanted money for, right? And so for me, like wherever you're at in the path, you just got to get clear on like why are you doing this anyways? Like what is your life's purpose? What makes you tick? What gives you energy?
Yes.
What gets you out of bed in the morning, right? Yes. For me, it's probably me and you. It's probably a little bit bigger than most, right? Like the things that we want to go and accomplish. Maybe it's the ability to just go fishing with your kids every single day, right? Like, and if that's it, then okay, let's begin with the end in mind. What is the cost? Okay, there is a cost to everything, and the way that you pay a price is through time, energy, or money, right? There is no other way to pay for anything besides time, energy, or currency, right? And so what is the cost of the thing that you want most? And if the thing that you want most is to go fishing with your kids every single day, the cost is going to be, how many hours? How many hours do you want to go fishing with your kids every single day? Yeah. What is it going to look like to sustain a lifestyle that's going to allow you to go fishing with your kids every single day? Are you going to live in a 2-bedroom hut? Are you going to live on 23-acre mansion? Are you going to going through that mental clarity exercise of exactly what you want and what it's going to take to fund it, And once again, funding isn't just money. It's time, energy, and money. What is that going to take? And so like this is when I hold a 5-year workshop and bring people into a room, no matter what industry they are, like these are the things that I go through with them first. Just like, what do you want physically, economically, your association, your spirituality? Like if you fast forward 5 years and said, I want to be at 12% body fat. I want to be hiking Mount Kilimanjaro. I want to be spending 2 hours extra a day with my children doing X, Y, and Z. I want to be volunteering as a football coach in my community that's going to require 2.5 hours. Like literally going through the work, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And then identifying, okay, how much time is this going to take? How much energy is this going to take? And how much money is this going to take? Then you got to go and build it backwards. And one of the important things with building a business is most of us build businesses that take care of the short term. Like it makes money today, right? Like if I have revenue, expenses, that's a little bit of profit. But the second, and with only 3 employees, but the second I go to 15 employees, all of a sudden it actually goes to negative. We build businesses that don't scale, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so the reason why it's so important that you start with the end in mind is you can actually say, does this at 15 employees or 20 employees, will this, one, fund what I'm looking for? 2, allow me the time and energy to be able to go and do these things. 3, be able to go through the ups and downs of an up and down economy, right? Yeah. And pivot and so on and so forth. And so like, I'll give you an example of things that don't scale.
Let me pause on that real quick, because I think that is actually the key point that I want to draw out for people who are saying, oh, I don't want to build my business to this point or to that point. It's that they've built in their minds, as you called out, the first issue is they're probably not clear enough on what they really want and why they want it. And they haven't articulated that. But they've seen problems, issues associated with certain businesses, and they've kind of set a block in their mind that, well, I don't want those things, therefore I don't want the business. But what you just articulated was, no, you want to envision the business at that point in a way that it serves your personal life.
Yes. And
that's the part where, when I talk about the business keys and the personal keys, they have to work together. And I appreciate the exercise you take people through, because once they realize, oh, okay, well, that business that has those problems that I'm observing was not designed to serve the business owner and the personal life of the business owner in the way that I could design it if I wanted to do it.
Right.
And so that's the key thing that so many people, I think, they get stuck on. They see other stuff around them and go, well, I don't want that. Well, hold on. Start, like Chris is saying, people, start with what you want and get really clear on that and why you want that. And then design the business with 15, 20, 30, whatever that thing is, but design it in a way that actually serves the personal life. Chris just called it doesn't scale. Another way to say that is it doesn't serve your business, your personal life, either financially, with the time you want, the fulfillment, happiness, satisfaction. So I love that you just took people through that, because a lot of times in small business, the entrepreneur will they'll draw conclusions about what it would be like at a certain place in the business without actually recognizing, no, I can design it a way that serves my personal life. So I appreciate the way you described that, calling it, the business doesn't scale, meaning the business doesn't serve your personal life. All right, so you're going to go into some examples of where people get into this.
So a few things with that, like, whenever you build a business, you have to understand the law of management, which means one person can't manage any more than 3 to 8 people. Most people don't want to build a big business because they can't imagine having 100 people report to them, right? Like that is creates so much anxiety. They've seen it with certain business owners that have burned out, having 20 or 30 direct reports, right? And so they're just like, yeah, I don't want that. But if you're building this backwards and using the law of management, you have 3 people that report to you and so on and so forth, all the way down. Now you have a business, because like I'd get the question all the time, like, Chris, dude, you have 1,100 people. How in the heck are you doing that? I'm like, well, I have 5 people that report to me.
Exactly.
Right? Like, and although I love all my other people, they don't report to me, right? Like I go and I say hello and give them love and CEO kissing babies and shaking hands. But you know, at the end of the day,
You got
there's
five
only
people
five
on your
people
team.
that report.
That's right. Yep.
And so, but yeah, going back to like things that don't scale, like when you don't begin with the end in mind, you do things like this. Oh, Mr. Sales Rep, we can afford to pay 10% of our revenue to a sales organization. So I'm going to give you, the sales rep, 10% of the revenue as a commission, right? And then what happens is when you want to grow, where does that money come for a manager to manage that sales rep now?
Right. Now you don't have any room for the management.
Yeah. Now you start eating into your profits, right? 2, 3, 4% or whatever it is. And so like, when I'm talking building things at scale, you have to start with the end in mind and say, okay, in the end, we want to give up 10% for our sales side and we want 11% for our marketing budget. What does that look like today that's going to allow us to have these 3, 4, 5 layers of management? How do we incentivize and create the structure? How do we make sure that we're not giving away revenue or profit shares early on just because it's the only way that we can attract people in? Right? That just won't scale when we go to grow.
Yep.
And so like this is all, you know, we're getting off the topic of leadership, but at the end of the day, like leadership is getting people to buy into the great roadmap of what you're going to build. Yeah,
it is leadership. It's like you said, it starts with the clarity of what you want, and then creating a vision that people see how that all comes together and how they can fit into that, but then setting the roles and responsibilities. So maybe just in the last couple minutes we have, I'd love it if you could take a second and talk. You know, you've said several times the phrase roles, goals, and responsibilities. And whatever you call it, we've talked about it many times as, you know, the top 3 in terms of responsibilities and objectives for a role, but getting people to be really clear on what they do, because it's one thing to be clear about the company's vision, but then you've got to get great leadership is creating clarity, and you've got to get really clear with the individuals. So for people who are, you know, building their business, what would you say to them about roles, goals, and responsibilities that would help them to serve their people and grow their business more effectively by creating that clarity?
Okay. So first of all, understand that a role is, we'll use hats as an example. A hat is a role or a title within an organization.
Yep.
A hat exists regardless of who's wearing it. Okay. Most of the time we build out responsibilities based on the person that currently occupies the role, right?
That's a problem.
That's a problem. You have to separate the two and say, I'm designing this hat, okay? I'm designing this role.
Yep.
With this hat, there are 3 to 4 major responsibilities that they have while wearing this hat.
Yep.
Every position, every hat has to have those 3 to 4. So like, for example, if we're talking a scheduler, their main responsibility, manage the schedule of the installers, make phone calls to customers, identify problems that are going to hold up the schedule, whatever it is, right? Like those are their main responsibilities. If they do these 3 to 4 things perfect, then they've done their job, they've earned their wage, they've earned their, so that's the responsibility. So every position, every hat needs to have that. And then within that, they need to have standard operating procedures to accomplish those responsibilities.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, and every, like, for example, if I calling and scheduling a customer, the standard operating procedure would be like, follow this script, use this checkbox, do this. That if the customer says this, then this. You flow charts of yes and no and so on and so forth. And these are things that you consistently are going to be building. Like this is when you're talking about building a business, this is what actually building a business is.
You're actually building the processes, the workflows, the standard operating procedures.
And making sure that they all lead up to the grand customer experience that that you want your end user to experience, right?
Right.
And so but when you're first starting off, like if I'm building a 500 person organization, I only have 3 people. I want to do my best possible job to create all these hats as close to day one as possible, or as front loaded as possible. And then what I do is I take 20 of those hats and I give them to one of my 2 employees. And I say, okay, you're wearing all 20 of these. And you're going to have 60 different responsibilities. Now, granted, we don't have enough volume that it's really going to be crazy, but You need to make sure scheduling's done. You need to make sure permitting's done. You need to make sure that city work is done. You need to make sure that this checklist is taken care of, whatever, right? Now, what happens is what for Growth Map this allows you to do is as soon as that person becomes overwhelmed, you can identify a couple hats that you can remove and give to the next person. Then it becomes very clear. Oh, okay, now they're wearing 18 hats and this new person's wearing 2 hats. Once this person wearing 2 hats gets overly overloaded, then we split the hats and give the hat to somebody else. And then once someone wearing 1 hat is overly overloaded, we just need an additional person doing the same exact job, right? And so just like that is the roadmap and the way to like think through the growth of the business, which really allows for buy-in and like, okay, this is how I move up in the organization. This is how I remove hats and focus in on this 1 hat that works. So I'd say like that's kind of the technical aspect of that. You know, there's so many like theoretical principles though of building out leadership that are above and beyond all this.
No, I really appreciate you going through the organizational structure of it, because what what I found is that the concept of an org chart is very much entrepreneurs tend to be allergic to it. It's kind of a corporate thing, right? But it's actually, there's an entrepreneurial org chart that is a developmental roadmap of the organization, and it's what you just described. And it's actually like, biology and cells. It's mitosis. Like these cells are breaking apart. And it's the roles that you have. It's multiple roles. And when you have too much work for one person to be able to wear all those hats and do those multiple roles, and because you've clearly defined we always call it the top 3 responsibilities. And I call it top 3 because you might have 4 or 5 or 6 or 7, but let's be really crystal clear on the 3 that matter the most in this role. And people start doing all the different things, and they start to recognize, oh, okay, it's time for this to split. We need to have this person take on these roles and responsibilities. I'm now doing this. But what I love about it in an entrepreneurial org chart, an entrepreneurial growth map, the way you just described it, what's happening is everybody is recognizing how to put their work into the highest and best use possible, where you're doing your best things and you're handing off the next thing to the next person. And it's actually job creation. It's not the way that government talks about job creation. It's the actual entrepreneurial job creation, because value is growing as you do these roles and responsibilities. And it gets really fun for people to be a part of that organization. So I appreciate you going through that. I hope that as people have listened, they've taken some notes on this. And the point that I would make to you is, if you are, the way that I try to help entrepreneurs understand this, if you're thinking about, okay, where am I today? I like to have them do at least a 3-year exercise. Sometimes it'll go to 5, depending on where they're. But in 3 years, what does the company look like? What is the organization that's required for that? And now let's put all of those roles, responsibilities on the page. And then you put the names of the people you actually have on the page, and you can start to see all of the roles. By the way, when you do this, people go, no wonder why I feel so overwhelmed, because I'm doing all these things. That's right. But get clear on it. Then you can begin to take yourself out of the roles, and you do that as there's too much to do it. And you go into the roles where you do the best work and you hand off things to others. So I really appreciate you taking people through that. It's a leadership principle in putting people to work in their highest and best used seat. And it also is a developmental process where you're helping people to grow and become their best selves. And you're also developing the organization to be able to deliver for customers and build out the vision that you start off with. So that was great stuff. Thank you for taking us through that. I know we've hit our time, but I'm sure there's some people who are like, hey, I'd like to learn more about what Chris is doing. So where can people learn more about you, Chris?
The best way would be following me on Instagram, and then there's, of course, links in my bios as far as, we offer a $9 trial to our courses that we have. I drop a lot of free content on Instagram. So just at Chris Lee QB, like quarterback.
Love it. All right. At Chris Lee QB, you can learn more about the different things that Chris teaches about leadership, but also across some of the other disciplines to help you grow and build a business. Chris, this has been fantastic. Thanks for spending some time with me. I really appreciate it. There's so many things that you've shared that I'm like, oh my gosh, we could go on and on, but I really appreciate your expertise and the experience you've had in building a business. And now I love what you do in empowering entrepreneurs. Our purpose at Keep is to liberate and empower entrepreneurs to strengthen families, communities, economies. You're doing it. I love it. It's so fun to talk with you. So thank you for being with us. And for everybody, this has been a fun episode of the Conquer the Chaos podcast. As you listen to the leadership principles we've discussed here, make sure you're applying those in your business. And maybe the one thing I would say is, how could you take what Chris has described here, expand your vision a little bit, and create clarity for yourself, for your team members, for everybody that's associated with the business. Thanks so much, everybody. This has been a lot of fun. Until we talk next time, keep growing. Thanks so much for listening. Subscribe right here on YouTube or in your favorite podcast app to make sure that you don't miss a single episode of the Conquer the Chaos podcast. And hey, if you like this episode, let's get this out to more entrepreneurs. We all know that it is not easy to grow a great business and a great life. And so let's get this message out to others. Make sure that you hit the like button, that you comment, and that you share it with others so that we can help other entrepreneurs build a great business and a great life as they conquer the chaos. Keep going, keep serving, and keep growing.